Hey guys. This is part 35 of What If Naruto Was Sealed and Woke Up After 2000 Years. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 79, Let It Rain. Location, Tuchenka. What the hell are the Akatsuki doing here? James demanded, firing away bullets. Gurus looked at him. Does it matter right now? Just shoot them already. I'm doing that. Shoot them some more then. Liara tracked a soldier with her gun. She shot him once in the leg, slipping through his shields. He took a moment to howl in pain. She grabbed hold of him with her biotics and threw him at another soldier. They both fell to the ground, one dazed, the other dead. She killed the second quickly. Could you two use your time to shoot them? She asked James and Gurus. We're in the middle of a fight here. We know that, Gurus told her. That's why we're shooting, James added. She looked the Marine in the eye. Shoot more, talk less. Excuse me, could I get some help here? Arax asked, crouching behind a small stack of crates. He was only able to lean out to take off a shot or two before the Akatsuki shot at him. He had tried pressing the advantage for their fight but ended up getting stuck in that spot. Gurus looked at his student. We're coming, Arax. Could you come faster? James couldn't stop the grin from appearing on his face when he heard that. Liara saw it. Not one word, James, she told him. It's not the time. Oh, come on, Azul, he said. It has to be said. She frowned. We're in the middle of a firefight. All right, I won't say anything. Even though he looked severely tempted to do just that, he turned his attention back to the fight. He put his gun away and started chanting. A ball of lighting appeared between his hands. He cradled it as if it was a child before throwing into the thickest group of Akatsuki soldiers. They locked up as the electricity poured through their bodies, killing them all. She turned her attention back to the fight. Like James and Gurus, she had been surprised to find the Akatsuki here on Tuchenka, trying to take control of the installation. They had come down just as the soldiers were making their way inwards to the controls. That's what set off this firefight in the staging area of the installation. She wasn't sure if any soldiers had made to the controls, but she had to assume they didn't. Otherwise, this fight would be a lot more difficult than it already was. That didn't mean this fight was easy. They all could see that. Does anyone else find themselves wishing Naruto was here? Gurus asked. I do, James answered. Arax managed to shout out, same here, before ducking back in for cover. Liara felt the same way too. She hadn't noticed it before, but Naruto was able to make a battle seem like it was in their favor the entire time. Maybe it was because he was lethal with both his guns and close-quarters combat. Maybe it was because he could turn the tide with a single jutsu. Maybe it was because he never once panicked in the face of an enemy. Whatever it was he had, they could really use it about now. They were making their way towards the control console, but the Akatsuki were falling back to that position too. They were forming a tighter shield of protection each time they fell back. It was getting annoying. Just keep fighting, she told the Turian and the Marine. Got it, Azul, James said. What does that even mean? She demanded. He had been calling her that ever since they got on the shuttle and left the Normandy. Blue. She instinctively looked down at her skin. Suddenly, his name made a lot more sense. But she didn't say anything about it. She turned her attention back to the fight. The soldiers were bringing their shields together, making a literal wall. That just made their job a lot harder. Gotta take them, she muttered. Arax was able to take a look at the scene before ducking back in cover. Hey, I've got an idea, he shouted to the others. What's that? Gurus asked him. I'm going to need a grenade. He took one out of his pack. Here, he called out, rolling the grenade out over the ground. His student was quick to grab it. Thanks. Liara, I need your help. What do you need? She asked. Yank a shield, please. That she could do. Her body glowed with her biotics. She turned them to the shield closest to Arax. Once she had it in her grasp, she yanked hard. It was a little struggle, but the shield did come off the soldier's hand. What the? Arax! She shouted. On it, he replied, already tossing the grenade into the hole. 2 seconds passed before something happened, and it felt like some of the longest seconds in her life. The seconds passed and an explosion ripped through the Akatsuki soldiers. They were sent flying, both the wounded and the dead. The ones who were still alive landed dazed and a little confused. That proved to be fatal for them, since Gurus, James, and Liara took care of them. Is that all of them? James asked after putting a bullet through an Akatsuki soldier's head. The helmet's face mask cracked from the bullet, and he saw what was inside. It was a pure human. He looked for a moment longer before turning away. I think so, Gurus said. Sir, look out! Ararak shouted, pulling his pistol free and opening fire. The Turian whipped around at both the shout and the gunfire. An Akatsuki had been behind him, quick enough to get back on his feet. He had his gun drawn and was about to shoot Gurus when Ararak struck. He fell to the ground with 3 bullets in his back. His face was frozen in the puzzled look of surprise he had when he felt the bullets. They all stared at the body for a moment longer. Good shot, Ararax, Gurus told his student. In spite of the situation all around them, the young Turian grinned. Thank you, sir. Liara quickly looked around. Anyone else alive? It didn't look like it to her, but she wasn't the only one there. James did a quick double-check. They all looked dead to me. Same here, Gurus told her. They all looked dead to him. He knew the ones he had shot were dead since he borrowed some futon clips from Naruto. There were holes in the bodies where he shot them. Alright, let's move. The control console was just up ahead. They stepped over the dead, climbing up the ramp and ladders. Gunshots rang out as they approached the entrance. That was a warning shot. Someone from inside shouted. I won't miss the second time. Is there someone in there? James asked. Sounds like it, Ararax remarked. I thought we got them all. Gurus looked flatly at the Marine. It looks like we didn't. He brought his rifle up. I got him. Give me some cover. Wait, allow me. He stowed his gun and clapped his hands together. He chanted in Hispano and water formed between his hands. He stepped into the open and tossed it inside. There was a surprised shriek followed by a drowning gurgle. It died away quickly. Once it was gone, he stepped inside. The others followed him. The soldier was behind the console, water splattered around his head. What did you do? Ararax asked the Marine. Did a jutsu and aimed right for his head, he said, checking around the back. He drowned. But how did that work? It's chakra paper. Just go with it. Once he was done, he looked back to the others. We're clear. Liara went to the console and started up the activation process. She was halfway through it when the screen suddenly died. There was a whine in the air, fading away fast. Shit! What? Gurus asked. They're pulling the plug. Where's the power modules? James asked. If they found those, they would be able to turn the power back on. She checked the emergency map next to the console. Outside. Out back we go then. Ararax was by the entrance and had the best view. Oh, this got more complicated, he announced. What? Do we have some kind of storm coming in? No, we've got Akatsuki incoming. Gurus and James went to the entrance. They saw a shuttlecraft coming down to the installation. How is that possible? Gurus asked. Is there a ship in orbit we don't know about? They had assumed the soldiers already here had been stranded and were trying to make a stand. James was already reaching for the calm. Hey, Joker. You there, amigo? What's up, James? Joker asked. Scan the planet's orbit. We might have an uninvited guest. Hold on. Seconds passed before he came back. Crap, there's an Akatsuki ship in orbit. They must have snuck in when we weren't looking. Or was here before us. I'll take this position, Gurus told them, going to the railing and placing his rifle on it. Liara nodded in acknowledgement. The rest of us will go out and take care of the modules. Paper? Yes? Ararax asked. He was getting used to being called that name. It didn't sting as much now. Try not to get stuck this time, alright? If he was human, he would have flushed. Yes, ma'am. As soon as they came out, the shuttle was landing. Oh boy, James said. They're going to race us for those modules. Then we'll move fast, Liara told him. I could probably make it move faster. He put his gun away and pulled out a knife. With practice motions, he cut open his forearms and slid his hands through the blood. Ararax was confused by what he was seeing and made no qualms about voicing it. What's he doing? he asked the Asari. Just wait. James's hands slammed into the ground and he was engulfed in smoke. It blew away quickly, thanks to a steady Tachanka wind. But there were 2 lean jaguars sitting at his feet. James, why have you called us? The jaguar on his left asked in a girl's voice. I need your help, Sophia, Miguel. We figured that out, the jaguar on the right remarked in a gruff male voice. So, what are we doing? We've got enemy forces trying to reach that building before us, he told him, gesturing at the building and the soldiers. I need you to cut them off. Can we play? Sophia asked. She sounded a little perked up by that idea. Play? Ararax asked himself. They were in the midst of a fight and the big cat wanted to play? He was seriously starting to wonder why the Marine had summoned them in the first place. James considered it for a moment before shaking his head. We don't have the time, Sophia. That's no fun. Sorry. Don't apologize, Miguel told him. My idiot sister needs to realize that it's not about playing all the time. She swatted him with a big paw, which he avoided. You shut up. He returned her glare and gave her a haughty sniff. She didn't like that. Guys, please, James said to them both. Can you just take care of the soldiers? We're on it, Miguel assured him. He gave one last look at his sister, which she returned in equal measure. Then the 2 of them just vanished from sight. Whoa, Ararax exclaimed. Where'd they go? 1 minute they were there, the next they were just gone. Did they disappear? No, Paper, they didn't disappear. They just went to work. Twin roars ripped through the air, followed screams, shouts, and scattered gunfire. Liara couldn't see the carnage. She didn't need to. But she did have a question. Why didn't you summon the boss? She asked James. We need the time. Miguel and Sophia are the fastest jaguars allowed to be summoned. It's why they're called the Phantasmus. Huh, said Ararax. He didn't roll his eyes at the Turian. He didn't know. Ghosts, Paper. They're called the ghosts. Oh, I see. He did. They had disappeared so fast, after all. After another minute, James finally said, All right, we can move in. The fighting had sounded like it had dwindled down. Why were we waiting in the first place? Liara asked him as she led them towards the building. Sophia and Miguel don't like to be disturbed when they start a fight. They're liable to harm allies that way. He sounded like he knew that would happen. How do you know? My tribe keeps records of all its summoners and what they've done. There have been a few incidents with the Phantasmus. That raised a question with Ararax. Just how old are they anyway? He asked the Marine. Don't know, he said, keeping his eyes straight, never asked. They were coming up to the building and his gun was at the ready. You never asked? Can we worry about this later, Paper? Let's focus on getting the power back on. He bit down the next question he had. Yes, sir. When the building was in sight, the sounds of battle were dwindling down. Gurus, are there any more coming in? Liara asked. You're clear, he replied. But what's with the screaming? How big of a fight are you guys in? We're not. James summoned a couple of jaguars. Okay. That's all he really has to say. Ararax asked. He wasn't surprised, but still. One thing you learn about serving with Naruto Uzumaki, Liara told him, you figure out how to roll with what's thrown at you. That made sense to him. After all, he wasn't surprised. They approached the building and saw the soldiers were all dead. The last few remaining were pushed back to the far end. They were trying their best to keep the Panthers away. Ignore them, James told the others. They'll finish the job and leave. The modules were on the wall, next to each other. James, get the one on the left. I'll get the one on the right, Liara ordered. The Marine went up to his module and shot off the lock. Ready, he said over a scream at the end. Ready, Liara replied. Together they activated the sequences to reroute the power. Guys, we've got more incoming, Gurus said. Another shuttle? Yeah. It just left the ship. It's still in orbit? Descending, but yeah. She judged the distance, and the time it would take to get back to the console and to start up the cannon. It would be close, too close for her liking. Then she remembered where Gurus spent half his time on the ship. Gurus, tell me you can get that cannon online. The controls look simple enough. Get to it. Destroy that shuttle and that ship. We're heading back to you now. They left as one finally desperate gunshot went off and an agonizing scream followed. Only Ararax looked back as they left. He saw the two panthers trot out like they had been on a picnic. They leapt over the ledge and disappeared from sight, literally. The one thing he noticed about them was the blood-stained smiles they had before they were gone. "James, are those jaguars sadistic?" he asked. "Little bit," the Marine answered without shame. "The cannon's online," Garrus announced. "Getting the coordinates. They're locked in. Cannon firing." The whole installation shook as the cannon fired. 3 blue orbs throttled through the air and struck the shuttle coming down. It was destroyed completely, leaving nothing but falling wreckage. The cannon turned higher still and fired into orbit. The second of orbs flew higher and higher until they became nothing but a mere speck. And even after that, they disappeared. Liara's squad reached the control room as Garrus got news from Joker. "Ship was hit," he told them. "It's destroyed." James air-pumped the air. "That's what I'm talking about." "Nice job," Liara told everyone. Ararax looked at the console with a thoughtful look. He was happy they had succeeded and that the Akatsuki's ship had been destroyed. But was that all they were able to do with it? "Can this cannon hit anything else?" he asked. "Like that Reaper the others are fighting?" Both Liara and Garrus looked at each other, and then at the console controls. "You know, I don't see why not," Garrus said, heading back to the controls. "It might have to do a little bit of reconfiguring, but I think it can happen." "Nice going, Ararax." "Thank you, sir." When the Krogan came rushing out of the hollows, they all ran for the Tomkas parked outside. Naruto was able to get his team inside, one with Grunt, Rex, and Mito. The room inside was spacious, and yet it reminded Naruto a little bit of the Mako's interior. The only thing missing was a crash seat. The Krogan wasted no time in heading out for the Shroud. And they weren't the only ones. The Turians were already airborne and heading in the same direction. "Krogan ground convoy, this is Turian Wing Artemek. Our flight vector to the Shroud is locked," the lead pilot announced over the comms. "We're 10 minutes out and counting." Naruto replied, "We hear ya, Artemek. We're a little late, but we're moving as fast as we can. We'll see you there." Grunt laughed as he watched his teacher. "You know, Naruto, you must send the Turians into fits with you talk. They like their military communications nice and proper," he remarked. Lee was surprised by that accusation. Naruto would never do something so unyouthful, he protested. The blonde in question just looked at him. "Lee, how long have you known me?" he asked. "I would do something like that. I just did." He didn't have anything to say that. The blonde was right. He had seen him prank both before and during the war. "You should not be so unyouthful, Naruto," he said. "It's who I am, Lee. You know that." Mita looked over at Rex. "Reeve isn't the only Krogan who wants revenge for the Genophage, Rex. You'll have to placate them somehow." He already had an idea for that. "I'll demand that the Council return some of our old territory. We'll need room to expand," he said. "Recapture the glory of the ancients." Mordin heard that from where he was sitting. He leaned over and looked pointedly at Rex. "Glory of ancients led to Krogan rebellions. Countless death. Creation of Genophage. Expansion plan, problematic," he remarked. "That would depend on his definition of ancients," Naruto remarked, looking at Rex. "Were you thinking about the ancient Krogan like I was thinking about the ancient Krogan?" "I'm thinking of both," he said. "The ones you know and the ones I know. I'm sure there's a way to bring them together." "So, what's your ancient Krogan like?" Mito was the one who answered. "I know what Rex is thinking of. I think of it too. Tuchenko wasn't always a wasteland. In the old times, the Krogan were a proud people. We had dreams, a future to look forward to. Until Solarian interference," Mordin added. He was sure it would be brought up. Might as well get it over with. But she shook her head. "No. We destroyed Tuchenko ourselves. Technology changed us. It made life too easy. So we looked for new challenges, and found them in each other. Nuclear war was inevitable. And now our planet is rubble," Rex declared. "We'll need a better place to live." Naruto looked at them both. They were willing to move to a new planet that fast? They weren't even going to try and stay here. This was the Krogan homeworld. Surely that's worth defending, he thought. "Gaki," said Kurama, "would you stay in Konoha if the village had been burned down?" "That's different." "Is it?" "Yes. For one thing, they could rebuild Konoha or just relocate it. They wouldn't have to just leave it. And another thing was that it was not a planet. You guys aren't going to try and fix Tuchanka? He asked the Krogan. It wasn't the older Krogan who spoke but the younger. Naruto, Grunt said. This place is a wreck and a mess. You really think that kids should be raised here with this kind of mess, this kind of radiation? It's happened before. Yeah, but now there's a chance for a new planet, a better planet. That sounds like a good idea to me. They weren't going to drop the idea. To them, Tuchanka was dead. He didn't think the same way, but he had no grounds to argue. It wasn't his planet. Alright, maybe the Council will give you a new planet. After all, you're destroying a Reaper. We might need 10 planets, Rex remarked. You haven't seen how fast we can pop them out. Mito gave him a pointed look. Rex. What? With the genophage cured, we'll have a lot of catching up to do. He looked over at Grunt. And I'm sure the whelps will enjoy it just as much. I am no whelp, the blue-eyed Krogan reminded him. You're still young. But I do know the females will be all over you. The chance to sire Krogan with chakra is an interesting proposition. He grinned widely at him. He was going to have a lot of fun after this was all done. The same could be said for Mito, Edi remarked from where she stood by the entrance. She has been given chakra. It is quite possible that she will be able to pass it on. Male Krogan would do anything to have her sire his children. That would be up to me, Mito told her flatly. Grunt spoke up. Even if it was, you still need to learn how to control your chakra. I can help you with that. He kept his voice respectful. He was talking to a female, a shaman female at that, and possibly the future mate of Rex. Why wouldn't he be respectful? Grunt teaching? Shikaka said, eyes going wide. Does that make anyone else nervous? Naruto just said the right thing. Grunt, don't make every lesson into a fight. Grunt actually looked affronted. Do you really think I would do that? Just remembering our lessons. And he knew the Krogan did too. Mito was curious as to what they were talking about. But she was curious about something else. Commander, on the shuttle, was there something you were going to say? She asked the blonde. Oh yeah, there was. What was it? The Dalatras tried to persuade me one last time to not cure the genophage. That got Rex's attention. She made you a deal? What kind? He demanded. The kind where she offered me the might of the Solarian Union. All she wanted me to do is withhold some information. What information? He looked at him and Mordin. The Shroud's been sabotaged for years now. If it's not fixed, the cure won't work. To prove his point, he opened his Omni-tool and found the recording. He brought it to the part they needed to hear. Rex listened to the Dalatras's words play back at him. She sounded as arrogant on tape as she did in real life. But that wasn't the issue. The issue was what she was talking about. And she thought we wouldn't know better? He asked. Correctly, Mordin said. Would have likely fooled tests. But familiar with STG work. Can adjust. Did not come this far for nothing. In hindsight, he should have expected his people to do something like this. He must be getting rusty or sloppy. Perhaps both. Mito looked gratefully at Naruto. You just spared our race another genocide, Commander. Rex grinned. I told you we can count on him. Indeed, Guy said, giving a thumbs up. Naruto is that kind of man. His flames of youth are still burning brightly. Yash, Lee agreed happily. I would love to test myself against him. Naruto smiled. I'd like that too, Lee. It might be fun. But we do have a battle to fight. He nodded, his face turning serious. It wore that expression a lot during their last war. Of course, you are right, Naruto. Guy was just as serious. You intend to have face-off against the Reaper, don't you? He asked the blonde. Yeah, I do. It was something of an experiment. He wanted to see how the Reaper would do against two of the undead. And since both Guy and Lee barely used chakra in their fighting, they could be seen as the first step. How successful they were would tell him if using the Edo Tensei would work as much as he hoped. It's a good plan, he agreed. Since we are not alive, we don't have to worry about risks to our lives. We will be able to face the Reaper freely. The Tonka stopped suddenly, making everyone lurch in reaction. Rex got to his feet and started for the driver's hatch. Why are we stopping? He demanded. Can't see in front of me, Chief, the driver said. The Tonka in front of us has stopped. Why? Perhaps we should check outside and see, Edi suggested. Again, there was the barest of dry sarcasm in her voice. You know what? Said Naruto. That sounds like a good idea. Get that hatch open, EDI. Understood. The hatch opened when she hit the button. Everyone on the team followed her out, even Grunt. Naruto shielded his eyes from the harsh sun until they adjusted. The first thing he saw was the shroud. It was within sight. A glowing energy emitted from the building and drifted upwards into the atmosphere, disappearing into a dark cloud. He would have taken the time to admire it, except he also saw the Reaper close to the shroud. It didn't see them, but that could change at any moment. The first thing he did was reach the people still inside the Tonka. Mordin, stay inside and keep Mito safe. Rex, you do the same. Will do, Rex replied. The blonde looked at Grunt as he took his fingers off the comm. You go back inside and protect her. His former student wanted to protest. He could see it in his eyes. Go, Grunt. She's your race's future. She takes priority. Grunt understood that. He didn't like it, but he understood what she meant. He nodded once and went back to the Tonka. Naruto looked at the Tonka behind his. Maya and Javik were coming out of there with questions on their faces. What's going on? The swagman asked. Don't know. About to find out. There was a scout nearby. He could ask him, see if he had any information. This does not bode well, Javik declared. Now is not the time for you to be pointing out the obvious, Javik, Naruto told him. He frowned at him. I am only saying what is on everyone's mind. I know. That's why it's obvious. He went over to the scout. Hey, he said, tapping him on the shoulder. What's going on? Road's out, the scout replied, barely glancing at him. The convoy can't make it through. That's not good, Komi said. Sun nodded. Naruto, those aircraft are going at it alone. You have to stop them, he urged. Naruto was already reaching for the Comturian wing Artemek. It's Naruto. Don't attack the Reaper. I repeat. Don't attack the Reaper. The Tonkas have been delayed. Negative, Commander, the lead pilot replied. Our approach is locked. The Reaper already knows we're here. They flew overhead with engines screaming. All eyes on the road followed the aircraft as they flew right for the Reaper. Commander, Javik said to Naruto. An airstrike alone will not be enough. We must join this battle. Said battle had already begun. The aircrafts were firing on the Reaper as it marched towards them. Their edge in the fight wouldn't last long. Fuck! Naruto swore. He looked at the scout with a furious expression. Look, I don't care if you have to start building a new road. We're moving. Commander, Maya called. He looked at her and her pointing finger. He looked back to the battle. The Reaper was firing back, shooting down the aircraft. One was barreling towards them, leaving a burning streak. I've lost control. The pilot shouted over the comm. I can't pull up. Move, Naruto. Yuki ordered. Everyone, get clear! He shouted, throwing himself to the ground. They all did the same. The aircraft slammed into the lead Tonka, knocking it up into the air and against the ruined wall. It came back down on the Tonka behind it, almost crushing it beneath its weight. Naruto, what's happening? Rex demanded. His sight was blurry and smoky, but he still found the comm. Rex, you have to get Mito out of here. Go! The Tonka roared to life and surged forward. It skirted the edge of the road and the ruined Tonkas, but it got to the rest of the road and drove forward, leaving them behind. That was good. Mito was safe, for the moment. But they had other things to worry about. Artemek, you there? The shinobi called out through the comm. We have to abort, Commander, the lead pilot replied. The Reaper's tearing us to pieces. That's all right. Get your pilots out of there. We'll figure something else out. And how are we going to do that? Javik asked him. We're stuck on a ruined causeway with no way off. Before he could even frown at the Prothean, Maya came to the rescue. There, she said, pointing to the wall on their right. There was an entrance that led inward. That has to lead to a tunnel. We can use that. Naruto saw where she was pointing and made an effortless descension. Everyone get there, now! They had to jump the distance between the road and the wall, thanks to a crack big enough to get a Tonka stuck. Once inside, they found the path ended with a jump. The height was big enough that the only way out would be forward. None of them stopped to think about it. They just jumped down. As she rose back up, Maya looked at the tunnel. It was dark. The only natural light they had was coming from the entrance, and that just shined on where they were standing. We're going to need to use lights, she told the others. She reached for the light on her rifle and flicked it on. It shined a beam into the darkness, revealing where they would be going. It was followed by more lights from the others. Edi took it a step further and activated the lights built into the body she had. No one said a word about the sight, but they all thought she had just redefined the word headlights. Naruto reached for the comm. Rex, you getting this? He asked. Everyone good? Yeah, just scratches, Rex said back. Nothing the Solarian can't patch up. Reeves' truck made it out too. He sounded a little disgruntled and disappointed at that idea. The Turians are calling off the airstrike. We're going to need to find some other way of killing that Reaper. First we'll have to find you. Where did you end up? We're underground. He peered into the darkness their lights cut through. Things looked broken and unused. That was enough to tell him where they were. We're in some ruins. Commander, Mito said over the comm, that's the city of the ancients. Any chance you know how we can get out? No map exists. It's been abandoned for thousands of years. Rex laughed at that. You're a trailblazer, Naruto. Get through there, and we'll find a place to meet up. Nothing will stop this cure. Naruto took his hand off the comm. He looked at the others. All right, we're going in, he told them. Keep an eye out for a way through, but don't lose sight of each other. It could be a maze down there, and I don't want to be missing people when I come out of there. No need to worry about that, Commander, Maya told him. We'll be just fine. They stepped down into the darkness. They stayed close to each other. Their lights showed them where to go, cutting through the rooms full of waste and rubble. They never went forward, always downwards. The further they went down, the chiller it got and the more the darkness grew around them. Suddenly everything around them shook. It wasn't a gentle shaking either. It was the kind of shaking that made people instinctively grab something for support. When it stopped, Maya let go of the wall. What was that? She demanded. It was a tremor, Javik told her. Nothing more. But it happened again as they going down another staircase. Naruto found a rusted piece of what he hoped was a railing and held out. The ground shook hard underneath his feet. It felt like it was trying to force him to fall. He held on and stayed on his feet until the shaking stopped. He let go of the railing and picked up the beasts. Do tremors happen that quickly after each other? He asked the others. That had come not 5 minutes after the first one. You're asking us? Maya replied. She was right, that was a good point. Hey Rex, are you feeling these tremors up there? He asked over the comm. Not up here, the Krogan said back. It could be something else, Commander, Mito said. It is said that Kalros, the mother of all Thresher Maws, lives in this region. Since he knew about Thresher Maws, he knew that was bad. The so-called mother? That was probably worse. We should get moving, huh? Let me put it into terms you can understand. If Thresher Maws had a summoning contract, Kalros would be their boss, Rex said. Really? Grunt asked, joining the conversation. He sounded interested. Don't get any ideas, Grunt. I'm not. Right. Look, Naruto, bottom line, you need to get your ass out of there. Step on it. Maya looked at the others. I heard that right? A Thresher Maw summoning boss? She asked. Akin to a summoning boss, not an actual boss, Edi corrected her. Same basic thing. All the more reason to move it, Naruto said. He didn't want to see the mother of Thresher Maws in close quarters. That was terrifying enough with normal Thresher Maws. Are Thresher Maws so dangerous, Naruto? Lee asked him as they moved forward down the steps into an actual room again. He looked at the dead man. If you were alive, I'd tell you not to fight them up close, Lee. That would be suicide, even for a shinobi like me. The only time he had ever gone against a Thresher Maw, he had guns and jutsu to use. Lee had neither. Even with the gates? He hadn't thought about that. Still, he wasn't going to risk it. Let's not talk about it. They continued on. Nothing jumped out and scared them in the darkness. And aside from ancient Krogan art, which Maya assured him would catch a nice amount of cash when she scanned it, there wasn't anything down there with them. That feeling quickly changed when Guy saw something up ahead. Look there. What is that? All flashlights found what he was pointing at. It was a body, but not just any body. It was a Rachni body, infused with Reaper tech. Rachni, Javik remarked as he started the corpse. This does not bode well. There's going to be more of them, Naruto said as he reached for his comm. Rex, there are Rachni here. Stay sharp. I know. A few of them just attacked us. That was concerning. You guys alright? We'll live. All that matters is getting to that shroud. Find us fast. On the way. He kept his eyes on the corpse as he pulled his fingers off the comm grate. Just what we need. Javik gave him a dispassionate look. Did you think this would be easy, Commander? He asked. No. He'd have to be foolish to think that or even hope for it. Then why do you complain? I'm not. He knew when he was complaining. This wasn't complaining. Guy and Lee were examining the Arachne. How dangerous are these creatures, Naruto? Guy asked him. Less dangerous than that Reaper. Them you can fight up close, he replied. Just be careful you don't get shot. They're walking artillery. They left the corpse behind, following the path onwards. It didn't take them long to find something else. This was a much better sight. Hey, light, Maya announced, pointing up the stairs. They climbed the stairs towards the light. They found themselves still in ruins but with windows that shined in light. With that light, they were able to see the full scope of the ruins. It was big, and not only that, they were impressive. This is truly amazing to see, Guy said. Yeah, Liara would love it here, Naruto agreed. If she was who she used to be, Maya said. That might have sounded cryptic to anyone else. Not him. He got it. She might still love it. Maybe. She looked around the ruins, taking in the depth of the ruins. You know, if the Krogan hadn't been content to blow each other up, I wonder what this place might have looked like. We might just see it yet. There is a staircase up ahead, Edi told the others. I believe it leads outside. It did lead outside, but they were still in the ruins. But they had to take things a step at a time. Rex, we're outside again, Naruto told him. Something caught his eye over the nearby gap. Well, if you can see sunlight, that's progress, the Krogan replied. We're seeing something else here too, Maya said, looking over the gap too. We're seeing green, and I'm not talking about the spandex nearby. Neither Guy or Lee were offended by her words. Why would they? No one was concerned about the spandex either. They were too busy looking at the roots emerging out of the soil in the ruins, and the leaves that were growing from them. I didn't think plants were still on Tachenka, Naruto said. Not living ones anyways. You're looking at hope, Commander, Mito told him. All that's left of it on Tachenka. This was once a world full of beauty. Given a chance, it can be again. And that was worth it to him. We're coming your way. Naruto, that Reaper is still up to no good at the Shroud. Find a way out of there, and we'll pick you up, Rex told him. I already said we're coming, Rex. They started through the ruins, moving quickly. Javik had a question. How do we plan on fighting the Reaper? I'll figure that out when I get there, Naruto told him. You'll figure it out. It wasn't a question, but his voice was still strong with disbelief. Yep, he said without looking back at the Prothean. You don't have a plan. No, not really. That is not a good thing, Commander, Javik said critically. Javik, I'll be honest. Usually I make the plans on the fly. Indeed, he does, Guy said with a nod. Naruto has a talent for improvisation. Once he was given tactical lessons, he applied it to that as well. Yes, we may not know what the plan will be, but we can trust that Naruto will come up with one that will succeed, Lee told the Prothean. He was a little defensive for his friend. He didn't like how the alien was looking at Naruto. Pods dropped from the sky, slamming into the ground ahead of them. Contact! Maya shouted to the others. They were too far to see properly. She had a scope, though. She could check them. I've got Ravagers, Marauders, and... It was never a good sign when someone trailed off like that. What else you got, Maya? Naruto asked her. She checked her scope again. It looks like the Reapers got their hands on some Batarians. There have been reports that Batarian worlds have not been faring well against the Reapers, Edi said. So they've added yet another race to their armies, Javik said. He sounded as if he had been expecting that to happen all this time. Naruto looked at the enemy taking positions in the ruins. It would be a quick run for him, and that would be able to take out the Marauders and the Batarians. But the Arachne Ravagers would cause some problems. They were best taken out from afar. Thankfully, there was a way to take care of both. Guy Lee, he said, get in close, take out the Marauders and the Batarians. We'll take care of the Arachne. Yash, Naruto, Lee said. He took off with his sensei right behind him. All Maya knew was 1 second, they were there, the next they were gone and already in the thick of the fight. Whoa! She looked at Naruto. He knew what she was thinking. Yeah, and that's with their weights still strapped on. Whoa. You've already said that, Maya, EDI said. She barely glanced at the AI. It was worth repeating, EDI. I've read the history books, but damn. Naruto smiled for Lee and Guy. Reading and seeing them in action are two different things. Trust me, I've saw them before I read about them. Javik brought his gun up to bear. Can we focus on the fight? He asked them all pointedly. They didn't have time wasting around talking like this. Naruto nodded in agreement. Aim for the Arachne, he told the team. Once those are done, turn your attention to the others. But it's likely Guy and Lee will finish them before we're done. They moved forward, opening fire at the Ravagers. They had a bonus in the fact the Arachne were trying to shoot Lee and Guy. They didn't pay attention to the living. They paid for that. The rest of the fight was going much differently for the Reaper forces. They had no idea how to fight against the martial artists. When the Reapers resurrected their forces, they were more focused on what kind of damage they could do. That was done mostly in the form of overwhelming numbers and firepower. If they had some that were able to fight in close quarters, it might be worth something. The problem, however, was that they didn't concern themselves with close fighting because they weren't expecting it. In this day and age, it was all about guns, artillery, and distance. But Guy and Lee were different. They weren't about distance. They lived and breathed martial arts. Hell, they were martial arts. They knew several different ways to kill someone in close combat with their fingers alone. They were used to fighting against other skilled martial artists, matching speed for speed and blow for blow. They were learning that here, that wasn't even remotely the case. They found that out in the hollows and they were finding it out here. Their enemies were too slow, too weak. They tore them like they were nothing. Guy-sensei, do you find a little unsatisfying? Lee asked, kicking the head off a Batarian. A little, Lee, Guy said. But I would not let get to you. After all, we are in a battle. Distractions can be fatal. But Guy-sensei, we're already dead. We might be, but let's not test how far that will take us. We don't want to fail in the midst of battle, do we? No! A Ravager exploded behind him. He glanced back and saw Javik there. Thank you, my youthful friend. He didn't say anything back, checking the surrounding area instead. There were no more enemies. We're clear, he announced. No, we're not, Maya said. All eyes were on her. The Prothean saw how she was staring through her scope. It was pointed down the bridge, to the other side of the gap. More incoming? Yep, and they looked pissed. I do not believe the Reaper forces are able to show emotions, EDI commented. She pulled her eye away from the scope and gave the eye a pained look. I know that, EDI. Just let me do this, huh? Arachne? Naruto asked her. Some, she replied, bringing her eye back to the scope. But it just doesn't look like they have any strength. If you're going to send your boys out there, they should be fine. Oh shit. Everyone tensed at that. Oh shit? Why oh shit? I think the Reapers got their hands, claws, tentacles, whatever, they got a hold of a Krogan and did something with it. Naruto looked across the bridge. He saw what she was looking at. Oh shit. The creature was huge and clearly had the muscle structure of a Krogan. But the head was different. It was a Turian head. The Reapers had mixed together the two species into one. Guy saw the creature as well as the expression on Naruto's face. That is not a natural creature, is it? No, it is not, he said. I see. He looked to his student. Lee. Say no more, Guy-sensei, Lee said back, his face grim. I know. We must destroy it. Naruto brought the beasts back up. We'll take care of the Arachne. The undead shinobi leapt right into the fray, literally. Dynamic entry! They shouted as one, striking the monster right in the chest. In spite of the situation, Maya just had to stop and watch the move. Saints preserve me, they really did that, she said. Maya, fight? Naruto reminded her pointedly. It brought her out of that stunned look. Oh, right. She put her eye to the scope and started shooting the Arachne again. She checked the fight between the monster and the two shinobi. They seemed to be doing fine every time she looked, so she didn't worry for them. As the fight went on, they were struck with another tremor. It was stronger than the last one, strong enough to make them all fight for their balance. Lee lost his and the Reaper monster pounced on that weakness, grabbing hold of his leg and pulling it free. It disintegrated as soon as it came free. The dust flowed back to Lee and began reforming his leg. Are you alright, Lee? Guy asked, keeping his attention on his opponent. One break in concentration and the creature would take advantage of it. Yes, Guy-sensei, he replied. But I'm going to need a minute or so before I can fight again. Naruto reached for the calm as soon as the tremor stopped. Rex, it looks like you were right. Your Kalros is on the move. Yeah, we've got some ideas on that, he started to say, only to pause. What? Not now, Rex, Mito told him. The commander has enough to worry about. What are you guys talking about? Naruto asked. It sounded like something from this end. He saw Arachne taking aim at Lee. He shot it dead with his other beast. Some crazy idea we can talk about later, Rex said. Just worry about getting out of there right now. Working on it. He went back to shooting the Arachne. When they were all done, he looked to the monster. Lee was back on his feet and fighting alongside his teacher. Lee, you guys need some help? He called out. We're fine, Naruto, Lee replied, ducking under a wild swing. This brute does not fight well after all. It was just wild swings and bestial anger. They were able to look past that seemingly frightening appearance and find its weaknesses. I think they just labeled the creature for us, Maya remarked. Naruto silently acknowledged that it was a good name, much better than monster. Javik got impatient with the fighting. He brought his gun up and fired rapid bursts at the brute's head. It didn't take long for it to have a ruined head and fall to the ground. Guy looked back at the Prothean. My thanks to you, friend. But we had him. You were taking too long, he said bluntly. We are trying to reach the Krogan, not waste time fighting. He's becoming more and more of an asshole, Saiken remarked. Sun thought the same, but he also saw his side of it. He does have a point. I agree, Naruto thought. He could see how Guy and Lee were fighting. Guys, he said to them both. Think of this as a speed run. They considered it for only a moment. You are correct, Naruto, Guy agreed. Time is of the essence. They continued on, following the path around the corner. They heard the sound of water before they saw it. It flowed down a slope into the caves below, disappearing into darkness. Plants grew around the water's edge, breaking through the pavement where it could. In spite of the situation they were in, everyone thought the sound of water flowing and falling was a pleasant sound, a little soothing too. The hole the water fell into was wide, going almost from wall to wall. The only thing that was left of the floor was a thin path alongside the left wall, wide enough for one person to cross at a time. For those of you who can't jump it, single file, Naruto ordered. Maya looked at the gap. The difference in height between the two floors was enough to make her pause, not to mention the distance. But the shinobi, both alive and dead, didn't look fazed by it. You're really going to jump that? She asked him. Yes. He looked at her with a somewhat amused look. Swagman can't? It was a slight jab, but she wasn't insulted. We were trained how to endure, not making amazing leaps in a single jump. This is not so amazing, Lee said. It's a simple jump. He made the leap easily, landing in a couch. See. To further prove the point, Naruto and Guy did the same thing. The swagmen had one thing to say. Show-offs. The rest went up the path, making sure they didn't fall off. EDI was in the lead. She came off and instantly said hostiles inbound. Her hand brought up her submachine gun. Guy and Lee were already moving before she finished talking. Naruto brought the beast up and started shooting. He saw a grenade thrown into the air towards them. He tracked it and fired a single shot. It exploded at the height of its arc. Maya came to his side and started shooting. So did Javik. The enemy was only a few Batarians. No Ravagers or Brutes. With Lee and Guy being on a speed-run mindset, the fight lasted about 2 minutes. Rex came onto the column as the last Batarian lost its head, courtesy of Guy's leg. Naruto, looks like we've got a bridge up ahead, he reported. Try to find it, and we'll pick you up there. Look out, Ravagers! Maya shouted, watching the path. Naruto swung the beasts at them, shooting them before they could. We're a little busy here, Rex. I didn't say it would be easy. Javik noticed something to the side, coming out of a gaping hole. Husks on the left. He snapped, swinging his gun around to shoot them. EDI, back him up, Naruto ordered. The AI nodded and moved to Javik's position, shooting the husks. The numbers swelled for a moment as they kept climbing out of the hole. Javik flared his biotics and sent them flying back with it. The ones who managed to avoid it were sent into the air courtesy of a mini black hole. They were shot down and dead fast. The husks pretty much stopped coming after that. The Ravagers were taken care of too. I see the bridge, Guy told the others. It's just ahead of us. They started crossing the bridge when they heard the rumbling of Tonkas. Naruto, we're coming under the bridge, Rex announced. Get down here, and we'll get to the Shroud. Understood. He went to the edge, judging the distance between the bridge and the ground. If the Tonkas passed under at the right moment, they would be able to land on the roofs. It was going to be risky, but it would be the fast way down. All right, guys, to the edge. They joined him. What are you thinking, Commander? Javik asked. We're going to jump. Wait, what? Maya asked. He said it again. We're going to jump. Guy looked at the edge. He saw the same thing Naruto did. He looked at the others. Will they be able to land safely? He asked the blonde. We're going to find out. He reached up for the comm. Rex, we're waiting on you. We're coming in, Rex replied. The ground shook again, much worse than before. Wait, Kalros. What? He turned around and saw the Tamaka driving fast. A fin rose up from the sand behind it. Just one fin. But this wasn't like a shark's fin. That would have been too small, almost minuscule. He recognized the fin. It belonged to a Thresher Maw. But he had never seen a Thresher Maw with a fin that big. It meant that fin belonged to the biggest Thresher Maw possible. Or, like Rex said, Kalros. The fin was barreling towards the bridge with no intent of stopping. Get away from the edge, Naruto shouted to the team. Break off, Rex told them as the Tomka drove under the bridge. We're getting out of here. They got away from the bridge just as the fin smashed through it. It didn't stop and the stone broke apart at its power. It kept going after the Tomkas, leaving a broken bridge in its wake. Kalros' territorial instinct confirmed. Mordin shouted through the calm. She's not gonna get us. Naruto looked at the bridge. The gap was jumpable, even for non-shinobi. The building beyond the bridge looked like it was open to the outside. That's where they were going. Move it, people, he ordered. We have to get across now. Maya was the first to jump across. Javik followed her, and so did Edi. The shinobi brought up the rear. As Naruto moved up to the front, Rex started talking in his ear again. Go on ahead, Naruto. We'll try to shake this thing and find you. Grunt, start shooting, would ya? Thresher Maw getting closer. Mordin shouted. He sounded panicked. Tell me something I don't know. Metal and truck an excellent iron supplement for Maw's diet. Somehow, I don't think that's what Rex meant, Sun remarked after listening to what the Solarian said. Hey, he asked, Gyuki said. The team outside went into the building. As it turned out, it was open air. It gave them a nice view of the fin chasing the Tomkas. The cannon on the lead Tomka was firing, but it wasn't having any effect. It just seemed to make the fin move faster. This is a place that is not for the weak, Javik declared. Even the strong must be careful, or they would die too. And yet, I just know Rex is having a blast, Maya said. So is Grunt, Naruto added. They crossed over a bridge to the center area and the enemies came from the other side. They split into two groups and approached from different angles. It seemed as if they were trying to hem them in. Think they're learning tactics? Saiken wondered. Or the Reapers are just shoving it into their minds, Matatabi said. Naruto brought his guns up. Doesn't matter much right now. He looked to his team. Maya, you and I take the left side. Javik and Edi, the right side. Guy, Lee, you each take a group. Yash, Naruto, Lee replied. We shall beat them and press on. He was moving and in the midst of the enemies before anyone could say anything. Guy went after the other group and the fight began. It was a relatively easy fight, one where they didn't waste their energy. When Mordin came onto the comm, Naruto was able to listen. Naruto, the Solarian started. Rex busy driving truck, Grunt busy shooting. Are you still alive? Alive and kicking, he replied. How are you doing? Alarmed yet entertained. Kalros is quite persistent. Reeve, stick close. Rex barked over the comm. His brother was quick to say, drive faster. I can smell the damn thing's breath. I think they're having fun. Maya remarked to Naruto, having heard the same thing he did. She took a shot at Batarian going for Lee, getting it right in the head. I don't think so, he said back as he gunned down a Batarian. They actually sound like they're serious. Really? She saw the fin move past, still chasing the Tomkas. You know what, I can see it now. Husks are pulling up the rear, Javik announced. Marauders are with them. Any Arachne? None detected, Edi answered. They were fine then. Lee and Guy were already tearing through them. Once the battle was done, they didn't waste time. They moved through the building to the other side. There were dunes down below. They could jump off and land safely. But they would be on foot, and that wasn't a good idea right now. Fortunately, that's when the Tomkas came driving by. The leading one drove close and came to a stop beneath the building. Naruto, get over here, Rex ordered. Reeve, keep an eye out for that maw. I don't want it sneaking up on us. Make it quick, Rex, Reeve said back. We're exposed. As soon as the hatch opened, Naruto started pushing the others inside. Everyone in, now, he told them. It's going to be a tight fit, Maya told him. I don't think we're all going to fit in there, actually. The space was confined inside. But he knew a way around it. Lee, Guy, get on top, he told the two of them. Be on lookout. They both nodded and jumped atop the Tomka. That made things easier for them all. The ground started shaking again, and the sands shifted with the shaking. It's Kalros, Reeve announced through the calm. All Naruto saw was the fin again. It barreled towards Reeve's Tomka and smashed into it, carrying it into the nearby wall. The wall broke and the fin kept moving, but the Tomka had disappeared from sight. Move, Naruto, Rex shouted. He went for the hatch and jumped in. We're all in. Go! He felt the engines roar to life and the gravity pulling him backwards. The Tomka was moving. Mito was still in her seat. There was a small look of worry in her eyes. What about Reeve? Rex was quick to answer from the driver's seat. No way he survived that. And he was a pain in the ass, anyway. It doesn't look like Kalros is coming after us, Grunt announced from the back, his voice coming down from above. He was in the shooting seat, which was a little alcove above everyone. He sounded a little disappointed. Good, Rex said. Now let's finish this. There's a Reaper waiting for us. It took them 10 minutes to reach the entrance to the Shroud. The first thing they saw wasn't the buildings before them, but rather the Reaper standing guard in front of the Shroud. Javik looked at the Reaper. This does not bode well, he said simply. I know what you mean, Maya said, looking at the same thing. I know the Normandy clan has gone up against some impressive odds. But I don't think we're going to get to that tower. Rex didn't like what he was hearing from the others. He glared at them both as he and the others joined them. We're curing the genophage no matter what it takes, he told them both. Everything my people will be depends on it. Then what's your idea? Naruto asked. He was the last one out, and walked over to Mordin's side. The Solarian was watching the Reaper, studying it. The Krogan turned to the blonde but gestured at Mito. It was hers, actually. Kalros, Mito said. We summon her to the Reaper. He had to think about that for a moment. I thought the Thresher Maws didn't have a summoning contract. All three of the Krogan there looked at him. Grunt was the one who started sniggering. She meant literally summoning Kalros, Naruto, he explained. Oh, I see. A slight mistake on his part. Would it work? Mordin turned his eyes away from the Reaper, bringing up his Omni tool. Already discussed strategy. Just need to distract Reaper, draw it from tower while cure synthesized, released. Alright, how do we know she'll come? Legend says she is the mother from which all other Thresher Maws spawn, Mito told him. He didn't say anything about how she had already told him that. This is as much her home as ours. Rex nodded. If Tuchanka has a temper, Kalros is it. Nobody's faced her and survived. Grunt looked at him. You're tempting me again. Not the time, Grunt. Naruto, come in. Liara's voice suddenly came on the comm. It's Liara. Naruto, you there? They were all surprised to hear her voice. Maya was also relived. I'm here, Liara, the blonde replied. What's up? Have you taken care of that Reaper yet? No, but we've got a plan. And we've got a cannon. He blinked once. That was the extent of him digesting the information. All right, he said. He looked over at Rex and Mito. Would that help? Rex grinned in the way that promised blood. Oh yeah, that would help. It just might make it even better. Mito thought it over, seeing what he was seeing. If they used the cannon to soften up the Reaper, all the easier for Kalros to destroy it, she said. Okay, but how do we get Kalros here? Naruto asked. I'm assuming there's a better way than shooting the ground and calling her names. You would not do that, Coco rebuked him somewhat. Just pointing it out, he replied. Besides, it's more likely you'd shove a raisin gun into the ground than shoot it, Shikaka added. Well, yes. That he would do. Mito looked to the buildings leading to the Shroud. The tower was built in an arena devoted to Kalros' glory. The Solarians thought it would scare away intruders. Appears to have worked, Mordin remarked. There are 2 Maw hammers there, the 2 largest in existence, she explained to Naruto. If you can activate them, Kalros will come. That should distract the Reaper. The Solarian came back to them. Meanwhile, laboratory nearby. We'll finish synthesizing cure. All right, the shinobi said, looking at them all. It sounds like we've got a plan. I'll tell Liara when to fire the cannon. Once that happens, we'll call in Kalros and she'll finish off the Reaper. Provided she doesn't kill us first, Komi said. Isaba said, let's hope that she doesn't. Let's get to it then. Wait, Rex said, stopping the shinobi. He looked at the Krogan with concern. What's up? I want you to know that no matter what happens, you've been a champion to the Krogan people, a friend of Clan Erdnot and a brother to me. He held out his hand. Naruto didn't hesitate to shake it. To every Krogan born after this day, the name Naruto will mean hero. Congratulations, Naruto. You did it again, Kurama said. He knew what the fox was talking about, but he wasn't quite sure about how he said it. Are you being sarcastic right now? He couldn't tell. I'm saying the truth. You also do that sarcastically. Does that really matter right now? Gyuki asked. No, but it's fun to watch, Shikaka replied. Naruto ignored the tanuki. He tightened his hand against Rex, lifting it up. They were more than friends. They were comrades. They watched each other's back. Rex saw what he was doing and mirrored the motion, smiling at the sight. When they let go, he loosened up the shoulders. Now let's show them why, he declared. Ravagers coming from the side, Edi warned, pulling her weapon free. Everyone turned their guns towards the Reaper-infected Rachni. Rex stopped them by stepping forward. Go, he told the others. I've got this. You sure? Naruto asked him. He pulled his shotgun free and charged the Rachni. I am Erdnot Rex, and this is my planet, he bellowed, making the air shake with his war cry. The Rachni actually stopped at the sound of his voice. It gave him time to smash into them, letting loose with both his hands and shotgun. He's sure, Mito said shortly. Yeah, I can see that. Grunt pulled his own gun free. Bye, he said shortly before charging after Rex. Now that wasn't surprising, Isaba said. Not surprising at all. Everyone who heard him agreed. Naruto looked at Mordin and Mito. We'll see you guys when this all is done, he told them. Stay alive, Naruto, Mordin replied. We'll have cure ready. He and the female Krogan turned around and headed for the laboratory. He looked to his own team. All right, people, let's move it. If I come out of this alive, Maya said as they made for the arena, I'm taking Liara into our room, tossing her into that hammock, and not leave for 24 hours. The blonde looked at her with a slightly pained look. We didn't need to hear that. She sniffed haughtily at him. Prude. You were a little prudish, Naruto, Guy agreed. She is only showing her youth through her love. Surely you have found someone like that. I guess you could say that. They climbed the rubble into the arena. As soon as they did, they were met with Reaper enemies. Guy Lee, Naruto said once. Of course, Naruto, Guy replied. We shall show them the power of our youth. Maya watched the undead tear through the enemies. You know, she remarked, we could just stay back here and let them take care of it. You're funny, Naruto told her, bringing the beasts to bear. We're going in. It was probably about time he got in close with his old friends. She shrugged her shoulders. Had to try. They made a brisk pace approaching the Shroud. The enemy were being forced back in spite of the fact they had more numbers. Javik noticed something as he shot down a husk though. Commander, he called out. Naruto was in the front, getting close to where Guy and Lee were fighting. He stopped and looked back at the Prothean. What? The Reaper looks interested in us. He looked back around and saw the same thing. Even though there were no obvious eyes, it did look like the Reaper was staring at them. That was not good. He pulled back and brought his hand to the calm Liara. Yes? The Asari said. You got that cannon ready? We do. Please shoot the damn thing at the big metal monster in our way. On it. Gurus. I heard, the Turian said, lining up the shot now. The comm went dead, and so he turned his attention back to the fight. It could have been seconds or minutes before he heard the cannon. It was too far away to be heard. What he did hear was the sound of something soaring through the air. There was a streak of blue when he glanced up. It was there for a moment before it slammed into the Reaper. He heard it screech in what was probably its pain, stumbling back. It stopped just before hitting the Shroud and recovered. It doesn't look happy, Maya announced. It's a Reaper, Javik told her. It doesn't have emotions. Not the point. It looks ready to fire. It is readying to fire, Idai said. But not at us. Naruto quickly glanced up at the Reaper. He could see the energy charging. It wasn't pointing at them. It was pointing off into the distance. Oh shit, he said, realizing what was about to happen. Liara, get your team out of there. The Reaper was about to open fire on you. Get out. The Reaper fired. The laser cut a red beam through the air, hurtling off into the distance. For a moment it was like a bloody road, leading to destruction and nothing else. Then it was gone and Naruto's worry kicked up. Liara, you there? He called through the comm. Liara? Gurus? James? Why weren't they answering? We're here, Naruto, Liara replied. He breathed in relief. But that cannon isn't, Gurus said. That wasn't good. It's destroyed. Completely, chimed in James. Just in one shot too. Sorry, Naruto, Liara told him. We can't help you now. He didn't care about them helping or not. He was just glad they were still alive. Get back to the ship, he ordered. We'll take it from here. As she came off, Rex came on. Naruto, grunt, and I took care of those Rachni. But someone has to raise those maw hammers before you can use them. Little preoccupied here, Rex, the blonde told him, ducking a husk. It flew over his body and landed in a heap. One shot took off its head. The Krogan laughed over the comm. Lucky for you, we're here, he said. We'll handle it. Grunt, move your ass. Lee looked at the path as his last opponent fell to the ground. There was a lot of rubble in their way. He was sure that the shinobi could climb it, but the others, he didn't know. If it took too long, it would be bad. Naruto, we have a problem, he called out. The blonde looked at the rubble. He also saw a way around the rubble. The path was blocked, true. But it was blocked beneath a bridge up above. There were stairs off to the left that went up. That way, he told Lee, pointing to the stairs. I did not see them, he admitted. I should have paid more attention. I won't hold it against you. He started for the stairs. They followed. They reached the top quickly enough. Mordin started speaking through the comm. Naruto, some luck. Original strain in storage. Preparing the cure now, he explained hurriedly. You'd better hustle, Mordin, the blonde said. We had company and I'd be willing to be that's not going to be the last of them. And now they won't be, since you just jinxed yourself, Saiken admonished him. Oh come on, Saiken. They're going to show up. We both know it. And now we know it for certain. A quick turn around the corner, and they were at the bridge. Naruto stated to cross. There looked to be a small gap in the middle. They could all jump it. Holy shit! Maya swore suddenly. Naruto, on the left. Look out! What he saw was a redness from his left. That was all he needed to backpedal. The laser cut through the bridge, making the gap even wider. The bridge fell underneath his feet, taking him with it. He skidded downwards, fighting gravity to make sure he didn't crash. When the skidding stopped, it took him a moment longer to realize that. He looked back up at his team. You guys good? He called out. We're alive, Javik called down. Are you alright, Naruto? Guy asked. He jumped down before he got an answer and Lee followed him. Well, all of my body parts are still intact. I think I'm okay. The rest of the team came down as quickly as they could without hurting themselves. Maya was watching the Reaper with a wary eye. Did that Reaper just shoot at us? She knew she had seen it do just that, but she wanted to be sure. It'll probably be the first of many, Naruto told her. Think of it as dodging practice. Oh boy. Just breathe and stay alert. You'll be fine. Those words came out easily. He had said them plenty of times to other shinobi before they went into a battlefield where a beetle was hovering in the air. They approached the stairs. The Reaper was still staring at them. Okay, Naruto, Rex said over the comm. We raised the hammers. You have to activate them, both of them. My advice is to avoid the giant laser. Of course, Rex. Why didn't we think of that? He asked sarcastically. Just get moving. As soon as they reached the top step, the Reapers started firing again. Their brisk pace quickly turned into a run. The laser was able to follow them with surprising agility. It was only thanks to their speed and reflexes they were able to dodge the laser. But each time they missed the laser, it got quicker. There was a humming in the air coming in from behind them. Naruto quickly glanced back. It was the Turian fighters. Commander, this is Artemek Wing, the lead pilot announced as they flew right at the Reaper. We'll try to give that Reaper something else to shoot at. They got in close to the Reaper and started shooting. The Reaper gave a sound that would have been frustration in a normal person. It readjusted itself to focus on the fighters. That was the cue for the people on the ground to get moving again. They are quite persistent, Javik remarked as they climbed over rubble. That's Turians for you, Maya told him. They rushed through a gate, coming out in what Mito had called the arena. Naruto could see why it was one. The ground was flattened and once even, that's where the fights happened. There were levels surrounding it. That's where the spectators would watch from. While he noted all of this, his main attention was on the fact the arena was completely filled with husks and other Reaper creatures. The brutes stood above them all, but there were only a few of them. Commander, I've located the hammers, Yidai told him. One is located on the right of the arena. The other is located on the left. Maya heard that information, but she was still busy staring at the horde in the arena. Yidai, we'd have to get through all that if we tried to reach the hammers. She knew that if they did it, and even if they succeeded, it would take too long. Guy saw the horde, but he knew it wouldn't take them that much time, not if he and his student took some steps. Lee, we must take them. Lee understood what he was saying. Of course, Guy-sensei. Should we unlock the gates? It did seem like a good place to do that. No, we would risk destroying the hammers if we go too far. It was best not to chance it. Besides, there was another way for them to further destroy the horde. Naruto, I believe it would be a good time to show why you were named the Kage no Guntai. Even though he could understand what he was saying and could see what would be needed, Naruto still scowled at him. You know I hate that name. It is appropriate. Yes, Naruto, Lee agreed. It describes what you can do the best. I have never understood why you disliked the title. Say that after working with those clones. You'll change your tune. Commander, now isn't the time for arguing, Javik told him pointedly. If you can do something about this mess, do it. He glared momentarily at the Prothean. But he still had a point. All right. Fine. He holstered the beasts and crossed his fingers. Tajukage Bunshin no Jutsu. The next moment, Javik was engulfed in smoke. He brought his gun up on instinct, checking for targets. There were none that he saw, but he was still vigilant. When the smoke dissipated, he saw that he wasn't in trouble. In fact, he was protected. He was protected by the sheer number of clones that now filled the arena. Everywhere he looked, he saw Naruto's face. And they were all staring rather intently at the arena. All right, people, the original shouted so he could be heard. Charge! The clones yelled as one as they rushed into the horde. Guy and Lee joined the fray, vanishing from one spot and then reappearing in another. Maya kept her gun handy, but she also relaxed. She saw how Javik was still tense, like he was waiting for something to happen. You can relax, she told him. He looked at her like she had lost her mind. How can you say that? They were still in the middle of a battle. She gestured at the battle in front of them. Do you see any of them getting closer? I don't. Those clones and the shinobi are doing a great job massacring them. And it did look like a massacre to her. The clones were getting killed off, true. But the Reaper forces were getting killed faster. What had been a horde minutes ago was now a force that being contained in the middle of the arena. Two streams of clones suddenly broke off and went away from the fight. Where are they going? Javik asked Naruto. To take care of the hammers, he replied. He kept his focus on the massacre, so he didn't pay that much attention to the Prothean. You should only have to send one. It shouldn't be that hard to push a button. Clones can be fragile. It's better to send a few than just one. Look out! Guy shouted in warning. A brute's coming towards you. The brute in question broke through the clones just as he finished. It looked battered, and what armor it had was worn off. It looked at the team just standing there. Its blue eyes burned with hatred. If it could roar, it would have. Instead, it just charged at them. Open fire! Naruto shouted. Everyone was already shooting before he finished the sentence. The brute kept charging in spite of the bullets, trying desperately to attack them. It came to a halt and fell to the ground dead a foot away from them. Well, that worked nicely, Maya remarked. Javik noticed something else. The Reaper is turning its attention back to us. It must have been able to the Turian fighters. But they were too close for it to fire its laser. The angle was too steep. What would it do? Mordin, how we doing? Naruto asked. Almost have cure, the Solarian replied. He sounded rushed, distracted. Mito's vital signs dropping. Trying to compensate. He looked at the arena again. The battle was coming to an end. Hang on, we're coming in soon. Commander, the Reaper. Edi warned him. He looked up. The Turian fighters were nowhere in sight. The Reaper's claw came crashing down into the arena. It destroyed its own forces and clones alike. The memories flooded into Naruto. He forced himself not to buckle from the amount. It helped that they were all the same. As the claw came back up, the clones were decimated, the husks were gone, and Lee and Guy were reforming. That's going to be a problem, Maya said. They had to cross the arena in order to reach the Shroud. Naruto saw the same thing. He looked back at his team, analyzing them. They didn't know why he looked at them like that. His blue eyes turned distanced for a moment. When they came back, they were resolute. Go back to the truck, he ordered. I'm sorry, say what? Maya asked. Go back. Commander, you cannot be serious, Javik said, looking at him with a stern and almost lecturing eye. I'm completely serious about this, Javik. I can get through that faster and easier without having to worry about you guys. Commander, you'd be going alone, Edi remarked. That is an unwise strategy. I'm not going alone. He looked pointedly at Guy and Lee. They'll be going with me. As much as they wanted to protest the idea, they couldn't. He had been right when he said he could pass the claws faster without worrying for them. The undead shinobi would just reform and follow, unconcerned about any injury they might get. The living didn't have that luxury. Maya took charge. All right, fine, but you come back alive, she told the blonde. She didn't point her finger at him, even though the temptation was there. I will. They turned around and walked away. He watched for a few seconds, waiting to see if they would keep going. Then he turned back, joining Guy and Lee. Shall we? Yes, Guy said. Lee only nodded. Together, the three of them rushed across the arena. The Reaper's claw came down hard, slamming into the ground. They scattered and moved around, letting the spraying rocks and dust sting them. The claw tried to keep up, but they were too fast. So it brought down a second claw. Watch it! Naruto called out. They scattered again and regrouped. The claws tried to slam down and skewer them, but they were just too damn fast. Within minutes they were underneath the Reaper and on the road to the Shroud. What do we do now? Lee asked as soon as they reached the path. He glanced back at the Reaper. It hadn't turned around, but he was sure that it would any moment. He was also certain that he and Guy could take the Reaper, if they opened the gates. But they ran the risk of destroying the Shroud if they did that. That couldn't happen. Naruto simply raised his hand to the calm. Drop them, he ordered. The air suddenly rang with the deep thrumming of the maw hammers slamming home. The result was instantaneous. They heard Kalros before they saw her. They only saw a fin barreling towards the arena, but they knew that fin. The Reaper turned its attention to the lands beyond the arena, losing its interest in them. The fin disappeared into the ground. It fired the laser into the rumbling earth, but it only scarred the ground. Kalros took that as her invitation to attack. The mother of all Thresher Maws burst out of the ground and attached itself to the Reaper. Her momentum drove them both to the ground. The Reaper struggled, but it was clear Kalros had the advantage. Let's go, Naruto told Guy and Lee. They didn't need to see what came next. They knew Kalros would bring that thing down. They ran into the Shroud. Things quieted down somewhat when they went inside, but that was because they were away from the fight. They stayed alert, not knowing if there were any surprises waiting to leap out at them. Where do we go? Lee asked. Don't know, Naruto said honestly. Right now, his plan was to follow the hallway until he found the tower part of the Shroud or a map that could lead him there. The building suddenly shook as a hollow boom echoed from outside. Guy turned his head instantly back to where they came. It sounds as if Kalros slammed the Reaper against the Shroud. We can't worry about it. We have to keep moving. The blonde turned his attention back to the hallway and pressed on. A few minutes later, they heard the Thresher Maw shriek in victory while the Reaper gave one last groaning sound. Then all was silent. They didn't know what happened themselves, but they could guess she had won. As luck would have it, the path they took led them to an open courtyard right in front of the tower. There was an elevator at the tower's base. It only went up. Naruto saw Mordin working at a computer in the courtyard. He opened his mouth to say something, only to have an explosion erupt on the tower's side. It was high in the air, not close enough to harm them. But that was beside the point. The tower was exploding. Shit, Naruto swore as he jumped over the railing. Mordin! He called out to the Solarian, running over to him. Tell me that cure is ready. Yes, Mordin said, still working fast at the computer. Loaded for dispersal in 2 minutes. Procedure traumatic for Mito, but not lethal. Meilon's research invaluable. She's good? Headed to safety now. Her survival fortunate. Will stabilize government should Rex get any ideas. Good match, promising future for Krogan. Look out! Guy warned them just as a chunk of the tower came smashing down close by. It was on fire, and the fire was spreading. Mordin barely glanced back at the rubble. He had to finish the work in front of him. Control room at top of Shroud Tower, he told Naruto. Must take elevator up. What? He asked, glancing at the tower. It was still exploding, losing chunks of it fast. Don't tell me you're going up there. Yes. Have to. Manual access required. He opened his Omni tool and transferred the data from the computer. Have to counter STG sabotage. Ensure cure dispersed properly. Mordin, the tower is exploding. The blonde gestured up at said exploding tower. Tell me there's another way. No other way. He looked up at the tower himself. Remote bypass impossible. STG countermeasures in place. No time to adjust cure for temperance variants. Naruto didn't see his face to know that he was being self-reflective. Mordin, no, he said. No other option. Not coming back. Suggest you get clear. He looked back at him. Explosions likely to be problematic. He started for the elevator. Mordin, no? Look, I've got an idea. I can use a clone. It can go up there. It won't work, Kurama told him somberly. You need the formula and you've never understood that kind of technical stuff. That was Sakura's domain. You won't learn it in time. Mordin walked into the elevator without pause. Appreciate thought, Naruto. But must do this. My project. My work, my cure. My responsibility. He breathed in deeply, closing his eyes. Glad to have worked on chakra. Would have liked to run tests on the seashells. He's going, Naruto, Gyuki said. He's not going to change his mind. You know what this means. He did know. This was goodbye. I'm sorry, he told Mordin. He didn't want this to happen, but it was going to regardless. I'm not. Had to be me, he replied. In spite of the situation, the shinobi smiled. Someone else might have gotten it wrong? That was something Mordin had always said when it came to the cure. Of course. He went over to the side. His hand rose up, reaching for the panel. Wait, Guy said. Both the blonde and the Solarian looked at the undead shinobi. They walked into the elevator. We will go with you. Lee nodded. No one should have to die alone. Mordin looked at them both. He was curious about why they were doing this. Shinobi tradition? He finally asked. No, Naruto told him, his voice getting a little thick. Just what's right. Ah, I see. He looked at Lee and Guy. Thank you? He reached for the panel and hit the button. Naruto watched the elevator start to rise. Up it went. When he couldn't see it anymore, he turned around and left. Mordin's warning hung in his ear, prompting him to run as fast as he could out of there. He got back to the Tomka and climbed inside without stopping. Go, he told the Krogan driver. This place about to go up. You got it, the driver replied, slamming his foot down on the pedestal. The Tomka surged forward and pulled away from the shroud. Maya looked at the blonde as he sat down in a chair. Where's Mordin? She asked. His eyes were staring at the floor. When they came up, they were resolute. He dispersed the cure. But that tower was exploding. We all saw it. When they got back to the Tomka, they had stayed outside to make sure the Reaper went down. Seeing Kalros drag into the sands of Tuchenka left them all in awe and a little terrified. But then the tower started exploding and they quickly got inside. I know. He dispersed the cure. There was no change to his voice. They all knew what it meant though. They didn't see it for themselves, but they heard the story later. When the cure dispersed from the tower, it came in a wave of pure white. The wave broke apart into tiny flakes and floated down to the ground. For the first time in a long while, it snowed on Tuchenka. All of the Krogan stood out in the open, letting the snow fall down on them. They had danced around like children, happy for what was happening. The team had thought that the explosion had destroyed Guy and Lee, not giving them a chance to come back. They were proven wrong within hours. They walked up to Clan Erdnot's borders and got the sentries to get Naruto for them. After they talked for a short while, he dismissed them and they vanished in a swirl of ash and dust. Some of the Krogan, Grunt in particular, were disappointed by that. They were hoping to fight the undead shinobi, see if they could win. Naruto told the others what he had been told. Like they said they would, both Guy and Lee had stayed with Mordin to the very end. The Solarian hadn't panicked once in what happened. If anything, he had been content and happy as he dispersed the cure. He was even singing a song. When they told him the song and he told it to the team, those who had served with Mordin smiled. They remembered one night when they were all sitting at the mess table, and it felt like the collectors and the tribe weren't there. They sat around, chatted with each other, and learned a few things, one of which was that Mordin had been something of a singer. He even gave a small performance. Naruto made a request of Rex, one that he'd happily give. A statue of Mordin would be made and placed in the lands of Clan Erdnot. There would be a short inscription at its base, some things they knew he would have found it right. This is Mordin Solus, he who cured the genophage. He was the very model of a scientist Solarian. Rex kept his end of the deal and promised to start shipping Krogan out to fight on Palaven. Mito took one step further and thanked him in front of all the Krogan, telling him that he had a friend in Erdnot Bakara. Most people would have left the planet Tuchenka, content that the work they did was good. Naruto stayed, for 3 days. When the genophage cure finally stopped falling from the sky, he acted. He asked for Atomka and that grunt, Bakara, and any Krogan children on Tuchenka come with him. That last request was met some resistance. Even though the genophage was being cured, the Krogan were fiercely protective of what children were born. It was why no outsider who stepped foot on Tuchenka had ever seen one. But Naruto insisted, saying that it would be a good thing, and Rex agreed. It was a little disheartening to see that for all the millions of Krogan on Tuchenka and out in the galaxy, there was only 100 or so children. Still, he took them all and drove for what the Krogan had long since called the Old Tree, but what he knew was a Shinju. All the Krogan was hesitant the closer they got to the tree. No one in living memory had gotten so close to it, and now they were just driving up to it like it was nothing. Grunt and Bakara were curious but said nothing. The kids didn't say anything either. They were too busy watching Naruto with uncertain eyes. When they reached the Shinju, it looked exactly the same as the last time he was here. He could see the ruins beneath the trunk space. There would be roots inside those ruins, thick roots that would make traversing those ruins a little difficult but not impossible. He left the Krogan behind at the Tonka, telling them there was something he needed to check. He went into the ruins and then went down. Black Zetsa's message egging him on. He kept going further and further down into the ruins. He followed the roots. They burrowed deep. It should have been impossible for the ruins to go down that far. But they did, and Naruto kept going. When he finally stopped, he was in a cave, a massive cave. A massive cave filled to the brim with white Zetsas. He was immediately astounded by the sheer amount in the cave. Black Zetsa did say he had 2,000 years to get ready. He wasn't kidding. Once he got over the initial surprise, he quickly created clones and set them to task sealing all the white Zetsas for later use. Now, he could use the Edo Tensei freely without killing anyone. Kami, that was a morbid kind of relief. He left the clones to the work. They would come up and give him the scrolls when they were done. When he came out of the ruins, Bakara and Grunt came over to him. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Bakara asked her. Her actual name fitted her better than Mito. The transition between names was easy. "Yeah," he said. "I did." "Why are we here then?" Grunt asked. He cast a suspicious eye at the old tree. There was just something in his gut that told him that tree meant more than it was, and his sensei knew it. Something was going to happen. What, he wasn't sure. I figured it was best to do this in close proximity. He wasn't sure if he would have been able to make it back to the clans in time. "Commander, what do you intend?" Bakara asked him. Fixing the other problem of the Krogan, he replied. I'm going to give you back chakra. Both Krogan looked at each other. Bakara already had her chakra and was learning from Grunt. It was a slow process, but she was willing to learn. Commander, you have already given us chakra. He shook his head. You too have chakra, that's not all Krogan. That's not right. He looked up at the titanic tree. I'm going to fix it. With the old tree? Where I'm from, we call it a shinju. He didn't look back to see if they knew what that meant. I'll be right back. Keep an eye on the kids. He didn't want any of them to wander off. He leapt up the ruins and went right for the trunk. Naruto, you've got to be careful, Kurama warned him. You remember what happened the last time you got near this thing? I know. Back then, it had been a near accident. Now he was going to do it on purpose. He landed at the trunk's base. It was so wide that this close, all he could see was the trunk. He considered running up to the top but then decided against it. Here was as good a place as any. He activated the Rinnegan and looked into the tree. The chakra was there, dormant but there. It was a little different from human chakra. There wasn't really a word for what he saw. If he had to pick something, it would have been tranquil. That was not a word people associated with Krogan, but this chakra was by Krogan sages. Perhaps it shouldn't be a surprise that it was tranquil. What are you going to do? Sun asked. Make it blossom, he replied. How? I'm going to need your chakra. All of you. He didn't know how to explain it. He just knew what to do. His tenants didn't question or argue. They gave him their chakra, filling him to the brim. It was a heady experience, having all their chakra at once. It made him feel powerful, like he could conquer anything he set his eyes on. This world. It would be easy to defeat the Krogan and make them submit. And the Reapers after that would be nothing to stop, he told himself. That wasn't why he held their chakra. It was for something else. It was for the Shinju. For the future of the Krogan. He placed his hand on the trunk and channeled the combined chakra into it. It reached for the dormant chakra, urging it to awaken. A second passed. Then another. Something started to stir. Suddenly it felt like his consciousness connected to the tree. He could feel everything on the planet. It felt different from what he had known. It felt broken, torn, shattered. That was not right. It couldn't be right. This wasn't the planet he remembered. This was a husk, a mere shell. The air was foul and bitter. The ground was a wasteland. The sky full with clouds immovable as stone. Where was the light of the sun? He searched for the people, the children of this world. They were still here, were they not? He found them, but it was like they were only half there. Where was their chakra? He only sensed 2 Krogan with it. Only 2? This planet should have been filled with Krogan wielding chakra. Where were they? Where? Where? Naruto, pull out, now! A familiar voice ordered. Naruto regained enough of his senses to heed Kurama's voice. He quickly yanked off his hand and stood there, panting. Whoa, he said once he got his breath back. That was something. There really were no words for what just happened. And you're going to have to do it again, the fox remarked. Yep. He wasn't done. Try not to get lost again. He breathed in deep and placed his hand on the trunk. This time, he made an effort to remain himself as he channeled his chakra into the Shinju. The chakra inside tried to overwhelm him again. No, he told it. I am not you. If he was not it, who was he? He had chakra. I'm human. Human? It knew humans. Students of Krogan, the last known wielders of chakra. What was a human talking to it? No human had such power or mastery. Things have changed. Only 2 Krogan have chakra. Yes, it could feel that. That was wrong. Wrong. Naruto withstood the anger and the pain. It can be fixed. How? How could it be fixed? You must blossom. You must give me the chakra fruit. And why would it do that? So he could take it for himself, keep it hidden away like some treasure? I wouldn't do that. There are Krogan children down below. They can be taught. They are the future. Future? What future would there be on a broken world such as this? It's not broken. There is still life here. Look for yourself. Feel through your roots. You can do that, can't you? Its roots stretched deep into the earth and spread far. It could feel the planet, and it knew it was broken. How else? Wait. What was that? Life. There was life on this broken planet. Small. Fragile. But life. Somehow there was still plants on Tuchanka. How? Is that important? No. It was not. All that mattered was there was life. It had to be protected. No, it had to grow. But for that to happen, this world had to be fixed. It had to be cleaned. Cleaned? How would that work? There was a way. But it needed more chakra than it had. It only had enough to ripen and bring forth the fruit. It needed more. The human had more. Me? You want to use my chakra? Yes, it needed the human's chakra to clean the planet. Would the human give it his chakra? Will you give me the chakra fruit? The Krogan would become what they were supposed to be on a planet free of this sickness. Yes, it would give the human what he wanted. But it needed its chakra. Naruto considered the idea for only a moment. That was how long it took him to finally say, "All right, you've got a deal." Perfect. It could heal the world. But it needed the human's chakra. All right. Hold on. Who knew a Shinju could be impatient? There was a joke in there, somewhere. Naruto, you're having a conversation with a tree, Gyurki said flatly. Could you please focus? I am focused. Was the human stalling? No, I'm not. To prove he wasn't, he started pumping the chakra into the tree. Yes. This was it. This was what it needed. It could feel the chakra flushing through it. It awoke in its own chakra. It could feel surging, driving to its purpose. The chakra fruit was blossoming. It would give the Krogan chakra once again. But now, it had something else to do, something more important. It needed more. It needed more chakra. Hang on, Naruto told it. He was channeling his chakra. Yes. It had the chakra. It could begin. It could heal. It could fix this planet. It could cure it now. Naruto? Shikaka said. I think you've given it enough chakra. Yes, Son agreed. I think it's about ready to fire. I feel it, he told them. Then let go. I'm trying. It was like his hand wanted to remain pressed against the trunk. Chakra. It needed chakra. You have chakra. It needed chakra to fix this planet. Don't get greedy. Did the human not understand? I do. You have enough chakra. You could cure the planet now. That wasn't enough. It could cure the planet now, but if it had more, it could fix the planet. It could bring it back to what it was supposed to be. For that, it needed more chakra. Suddenly, Naruto realized what it was trying to do. It was trying to trigger the change. No, don't do that. You'll bring the Krogan back to the beginning. That's not what they need. They need to learn from their mistakes. You do this, they won't learn. Yes. That was right. The human was right. The Krogan must learn by themselves. They must grow. It could not make them do that. It could only give them the right push. And the right push would be to cure the world of its sickness. Naruto's hand finally came free of the trunk. The Shinju was done with him. He could practically see it thrumming with power. Something was about to happen. He could sense it, like hearing an echo that was coming from the future, getting louder and louder with each passing second. Suddenly the thrumming became audible. With a sound like a deep roar rising up from a gorge, a coherent beam shot out of the treetop. It struck the clouds and darkened them. The darkness spread fast, turning them all into storm clouds bugling with rain. Everywhere he looked, he saw such clouds forming. He felt the ground tremble, like waves passing through it. He looked up and saw a pale light drifting down to him. The chakra fruit was inside that light. He held out his hands and it fell neatly into them, the light fading away. The fruit was big enough he had to carry it with both hands. It was roughly shaped like a heart with dark purple flesh. He carried it down to the others. It started to rain as he went. It was a heavy rain, the kind that wasn't going to let up anytime soon. In fact, he got the feeling that it was going to rain for a long while. He reached Grunt and the others. What the hell did you do? His old student asked, gesturing at the sky. I helped give your planet a kick in the pants, he replied. You might not need a new one after all. Location, the Normandy. Samantha wasn't quite sure what to expect when she came out of the elevator. The general mood aboard the ship was a partying one, and it was fully justified. Not only had they helped the Krogan be cured of the genophage, the commander had taken it 2 steps further. Scuttlebutt was that the old tree was a Shinju, and he awoken it to give chakra back to the Krogan. The Shinju did and then proceeded to cure the planet. She wasn't sure how that happened, but it was raining heavily on Tachanka, something she hadn't heard of there. What she had heard about the chakra was much more concrete. It had been given to Grunt, Mito, and all the Krogan children that were on Tachanka. She had gathered that since Grunt was the first Krogan in known history to have chakra, he would be the one teaching them all. That sounded really overwhelming to her. When she mentioned it to Gurus in passing, he shrugged it off and told her the commander had left a clone to help. As soon as the ship left Tachanka's orbit, the partying mood set in. People who were off duty and even on were celebrating. Those who were on were told not to go overboard until they got off. Ms. Diana was there, filming it for her report. She tried to be professional, but the mood was infectious. Pretty soon she had a drink in her hand and smiling with the rest of them. It quickly became obvious that the crew were doing more than just swigging down drinks, mostly because Maya led Liara back to their shared quarters just after the party started. Samantha would have loved to join the party. But before she could really get into the swing of things, she had told that the commander wanted to see her in the Denver. Hence why she wasn't sure what was going to happen. She approached the door, and it opened instantly. "Commander?" she called out as she stepped inside. "In the shower, Sam," he called back over the sound of falling water. "Give me a few minutes." An image came to mind, one she quickly tried to get rid of. It was partially successful. She stepped inside the Denver. The first thing she noticed was the small greenhouse in the wall. The last time she had been in here, that had been an aquarium with no fish. She would have thought that it was because the Normandy had been retrofitted, but then she learned that while supposedly working with the Akatsuki, the commander did not put a single fish in the tank. Guess he finally did something about it. There were multiple plants in the greenhouse, or was it a green shelf, and they were all well tended to. She looked over into the office area. The glass casing above the computer had ship models installed inside. Someone had installed them during the retrofit, thinking that it was weird to have an empty glass case. But she saw that the commander had done something different. He had been putting up pictures on the glass. She looked at those pictures. Most of them were of the team. None of them were posed or formal. They were all captured in the moment, showing the event at hand. She saw a picture of Gurus and Liara helping at the Citadel refugee camp next to a picture of James and Maya in a drinking contest at the mess table, surrounded by an audience. The latest picture had been taken only hours ago. It was the commander, Grunt, and Mito with all the Krogan children who had gotten chakra. Looking at the picture, Samantha realized something. In spite of the fact they were one of the most dangerous races in the galaxy, Krogan kids were cute as all hell. One could not look at them without going, "Ah." Another picture caught her eye. It had a solemn effect on her, not because of the picture itself but because of who was in it. It was Dr. Mordin and the commander in what used to be the science lab. Commander Naruto was sitting in a chair looking mournfully while Dr. Mordin prepared a needle. Even though he looked like he was about to be subjected to torture, there was still a light of humor in the blonde's eyes. The shower stopped running. That made Samantha realize just where she was. She was in the commander's quarters. She was in the commander's quarters alone. She was in the commander's quarters alone, and with him just about to come out of the shower. All she could think was, "Please be wearing a towel. Please be wearing a towel. Please be wearing a towel." The door opened behind her. She kept her eyes forward. "Hey, Sam," the commander said as he walked out. "Sir, please tell me you're wearing a towel." It was the first thing out of her mouth. She didn't regret it. "Of course, I'm wearing a towel. I had to dry off somehow, right?" "Right, of course." She kept her eyes forward. The glass was a little reflective. It gave her a vague sight of the commander. He was just standing behind her, not moving. "How's the mood down below?" That was what he was asking. Shouldn't he be putting on some clothes? She did her best to keep calm and have a level voice. "The mood's fine. Everyone is celebrating the good job they did." "Glad to hear it. Did Maya take Liara away?" "Within minutes. She wasn't the only one." He chuckled, and it did something funny to her knees. Victory is one hell of an aphrodisiac. "Commander, what am I doing here?" she finally dared to ask him. He stopped his chuckling. His reflections seemed serious now. "You're here because I asked you to come up." "Why?" Silence fell between them for a moment. It felt longer than it should have been to her. She looked at the reflection. She couldn't make out his face. All she saw was tan skin against white cloth. I think there's some things we need to talk about, Sam, he finally said, his voice quiet. Like what? You know what? She did know what, on some level. But her mouth said, I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. You've been watching me. I know because I've been watching you. You have? She couldn't help the jump in her voice. You're an attractive woman, Sam. It's hard not to look at you. That was probably creepy, and would have been even more so if it came from someone else. But the way he said it, she knew that he meant the words as honestly as he could. And honestly, she felt flattered that he watched her. But why would he tell her this? Commander, is this going somewhere? She asked. Yes. The reflection stepped closer. She could feel his presence behind her. If she leaned back, she was certain she could feel flesh. Naked, muscular flesh. Her breath hitched at the idea. Sam, he said with a low voice, may I touch you? She whispered yes. His hand held her hip. She could feel it through her clothes. His other hand reached out and cupped her jaw. Blood rushed through her body as she leaned into the hand, feeling more of its warmth. Sam, he said again, may I kiss you? Yes. She felt his lips on her neck, right where it met her shoulder. It felt like electricity coursed through her from that kiss. It was all tingly. If a kiss felt like that on her shoulder, what would it be like if he kissed her on the lips? He didn't stay in that one spot. His lips moved slowly up her neck, leaving burning marks in his wake. Just before he reached her jaw, his lips pulled away. Sam wanted those lips back. Sam, he asked her, do you want me to turn you around? She reached up and undid her uniform's vest. Her hands were surprisingly steady. Yes, she said when the zipper pulled free. His hand spun her around. She found herself looking at oceanic eyes, filled with desire, a body that showed he was in peak condition, filling her with a great desire to feel in her hands, and no towel. That was the last thing she noticed before she was lifted up onto the desk and she put her hands through soft blonde hair. Codex Entry, Humanity and the Systems Alliance Kanahagakure Wet T-Shirt Contest. The Kanahagakure Wet T-Shirt Contest is an annual event that is unique in the fact that it is only men who participate. It initially began as a morale-boosting and charity event during the Fourth Shinobi World War. The Godaime Hokage Tsunade Senju, supposedly in a moment of drunkenness. There were some who questioned her motives when she brought the idea up. According to some reports, there were a few who even asked, to her face, if she was currently being possessed by Jiraiya. She ignored such reports and brought the idea into fruition. Many notable shinobi joined the contest, although many reportedly said they were forced against their will, including the men of the Konoha 12, the future Hokage Kakashi Hatake, and Orochimaru. The contest was held in the center of the village on June 5th. It turned out to be more than just a contest. It became a full festival. The highlight, of course, came with the contest. For the enjoyment of the entire village, Tsunade ordered the contest to be filmed and broadcasted. Needless to say, the women of the village appreciated the initiative. The contest happened in rounds and votes were taken. The two finalists were Naruto Uzumaki and Shikamaru Nara. Many women were surprised at how Shikamaru managed to get that far. Apparently not many people thought of him as a looker until then, especially after he let his hair down for the finals. Sources say that while many women looked at him with shocked looks, Temari looked at them all with smug victory. Yet, in spite of Shikamaru's surprise lead, the contest was won by Naruto Uzumaki. He had taken off his shirt, later saying it was chafing, before the last bucket was dropped on them both. Every woman saw him stand before them as the winner and, as Tenten famously said afterwards, that's when we realized that Naruto wasn't a short, scrawny loudmouth anymore. While the first contest was done for mostly charity, and most of the contestants sang never again, it became so popular that it was repeated the next year, and has continued since. Each year the event is accompanied by a magazine, ranking the contests, and providing pictures for them. What is truly amazing is that the contestants are not only shinobi. They come from all walks of life. Frequent comparisons have been made between the contest and the frontier lifestyle magazine Mr. Rabbit, with the only differences being that Mr. Rabbit has artfully nude women.